and is almost ready. Eric is co-founder and CEO of APTelecom, and he's going to talk about your balancing act, harvest legacy revenue while building the new. Eric, welcome. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. The presentation slides are about 4 in totality. I actually delivered this this presentation in Southeast Asia, in Bangkok, at the PTC Academy at the end of September 2019. And the topic is not technical in nature in terms of X's and O's or telecom, LTE, or anything along those lines. It's actually about CSR, corporate social responsibility. Just by a show of hands, I'm not sure folks in this cubicle or large cubicle, how many people have a CSR platform as part of their organization, the company that they work for, or have worked for a company that actually had CSR? Okay, there you go. It's obviously maybe something that is getting more headlines, more awareness in terms of corporate social responsibility, but the impetus and the overall background when we gave this presentation in Bangkok last year was to create awareness of what corporate social responsibility is. And in general, the thinking in the industry is that we do spend quite a lot of time in terms of network planning. We spend time on cost analysis. We spend time on margin analysis. But actually, how much time are we spending giving back to the communities in which we operate? Whether that be through sustainable practices, such as if we have a lunchroom, are we using plastic? Are we using plastic bottles? Are we using plastic straws? It may seem like a very minor thing, but the reality is the planet in many ways could benefit through corporations acting more responsibly and having a social responsibility in terms of their corporate mission and objective. Some large companies, for example, on Wall Street in New York or in other financial hubs around the world, they're not investing in certain companies that perhaps may have a high degree of pollutants in terms of their product set, or if they're selling something, say, with nicotine in it. And that's part of their platform in terms of their environmental society platform in terms of what they look at in terms of their investment allocation, their portfolio allocation. I'm not recommending something that dramatic. We're not here to invest money in companies in terms of day-to-day, but there are small changes that we can make to provide a more sustainable environment and to give back in the communities in which we operate. For example, Tim, you raised your hand. I'm not sure if you're based in Hong Kong or if you're based in the United States. You're in Hong Kong. So I was also at one time based in Hong Kong for AT&T. We used to do a corporate cleanup in Lantau of Upper Cheung Beach. And we would go out and we would look at how much plastic was actually on the beaches. And we're bringing to shore communication and the umbilical cord to the outside world for many countries around the world, but very close to where there's cables come to shore, or where those satellite stations are, those uplink and downlink stations, there's a lot of trash. There's a lot of rubbish. There's a lot of plastic there. And we would go out twice a year as part of our annual giving back community program to actually try to clean those beaches. And it was rewarding in 2 ways. The first was that we actually helped clean the beach. Maybe it was only for a certain period of time, but it was also a exercise as an organization where you could have cross collaboration with, for example, the sales team or the finance team was actually working with the technical team, management was working with human resources. And you'd be surprised, it breaks down a lot of barriers when you realize that you don't want your kids swimming in that ocean with plastic or things that could hurt them, right? So there's something to be said for the common good, the greater good, than just making profit. In terms of leveraging returns, at least when I was with AT&T at the time, and APTelecom's platform has been a large part of giving back to the communities in which we operate. We try to leverage those returns for the greater good. We operate in markets around the world, in Asia, in Africa, in South America, where corruption is quite rampant. And we're bound by the FCPA Act. I'm not saying that it's an end-all remedy for combating corruption and graft, but in general, if you're giving back to the community in which you operate, there is a kind of an indirect message that, look, we're doing this at a grassroots level. We're doing it at a ground roots level, and we're trying not to engage in anything that's nefarious or has ill intent. We want to directly give back to the communities in which we operate. Specifically on our end at APTelecom, we donate to 2 charities, time and money. From a time perspective, we spend a lot of time with an organization called bloomagainfoundation.org. The bloomagainfoundation.org enables women that have gone through a very traumatic experience, whether it's through verbal or physical abuse and violence, to get back on their feet again and, quote unquote, to be able to bloom again. And that's where the name comes from, the genesis of that name. We sponsored 18 women over the last 2 years to be able to get a second chance and to take themselves out of a difficult situation where there was a threat of violence to them or to their children, and to get into a protected environment where they were able to get back on their feet. It's not a solution to their problems, but it does give them the ability to somehow get a breather from that situation and reevaluate their options. The other organization that we work with extensively in Asia, as well as in Africa, is called Friends International. Friends International has various corporate and local grassroots programs to provide for children, and we donate financially to this organization to enable internet access as well as tablet access. We support iPads and purchasing smart devices for the children. The ability for a child and for a school in remote villages in Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Thailand, Indonesia, to have access to technology, to have access to the internet, enables them to really enhance their learning capabilities, enabling them to have those tools. And a small donation actually can help carry a school for internet access during the duration of that semester or trimester, depending on how long the school term is. Just getting back to some of the drivers for CSR, the third bullet down talks about the natural environment, pollution, environmental strategies. I think anyone that may be from down under from Australia has seen on the news lately the devastating fires that have taken place. And I'm not here to debate the merits of climate change, but I am here to say that I don't think anybody wants their backyard to be burning. Telstra, to their credit, waived all the charges, the mobile phone bills for the firemen that were actually fighting that fire. They took the very large macro view that the firemen were sacrificing time away and they needed to be able to communicate with their home offices as well as their families while they're out trying to help the environment. So there is a role and a very important role for us to play as an industry. We help connect people. We enable connectivity and communication, but there are times that we need to look at things from a not a cold capitalism point of view, but actually giving back to the communities in which we operate. And we very much believe in this and we support this. The last point in terms of governance and disclosure practices, we believe that companies that have a CSR program on average tend to operate in a more ethical manner. I don't have supporting data at this time to back that up. That's more of a gut feel and a hunch. So maybe if I get invited back next year, I can try to pull up some case studies, whether it's from HBR or Ivy School of Business, to actually be able to show that and demonstrate that. But we believe that on average, again, as a key takeaway, if you don't have CSR in your organization, if you're not part of a large organization or a medium organization or even a small organization or a one-man band or a one-person band rather, that you still have the ability to give back to the community in which you operate, whether it's by volunteerism of your time, whether it's a donation of your money. Just in closing, the last slide. I think we've covered in terms of the bottom line and the riskiness of it. But again, I would encourage you as you look at CSR in general, whether it's your reduction of plastic, whether it's your ability to provide a cleaner environment for your employees and yourself or your communities in which you operate, it's something that tends to get lost in the shuffle. But those of you that have KPIs or goals for the year, maybe look at putting something like that out there and see if at the end of the year, of this calendar year, you're able to somehow give back, donate 3 hours, 5 hours, maybe donate a small percentage of your profit to a charity that is making a difference. And I'm sure the people that receive that benefit would be extremely, extremely grateful because we're all very fortunate. We're all here in Hawaii, but there's a lot of people that can't make the journey that are struggling to get by day in and day out. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This concludes today's round of lightning talks. We'll have another round of presentations starting tomorrow at 12:30. So thank you and look forward to seeing you back tomorrow.